Thank you so much. I think this is a very interesting day and time. We had an excellent presentation coming from Raj, uh, basically highlighting on what ails the larger agricultural system. So let's come to the interesting panel. This panel discussion is about innovative agrochemicals. So there are keywords, please keep noting them. Innovative agrochemicals, partnering, innovation for supporting Make in India. So obviously the imperatives for this panel is very clear that we are talking here about innovation, about the larger ecosystem, we are talking about agrochemicals, we are talking about partnerships, and we are also talking about how do you have Make in India ramped up through the industry initiatives. So let's put it this way that, today we are all operating in the area of agriculture. And the key challenges before agriculture today are essentially around the area of sustainability. The key challenge there again is in the area of how do we innovate in a responsible manner, that we are able to bring about sustainable solutions. Second, and the very important one, is about productivity. How does the industry or how do agrochemicals contribute to enhancing the already so low productivity? You just saw from Raj's presentation that in a crop like cotton, we are sitting literally at about 1/3 of the global average. Now, that's not a healthy sign. But the story is same across crops if you go through. We are at either about half of the global best or at about 1/3. So one of the imperatives very clearly for the industry is, and for the country is innovation. Now, when we talk about innovation, a lot of stuff comes to our own way. And the other challenges that come our way are essentially the focus on safer food chains. I think the way the world is evolving, and especially after the COVID, there's this extreme amount of sensitivity about the food that we eat. And how safe is our food chain is the question which all of us as consumers ask, and then our own customers ask us the same thing. So we address that part. So addressing all these challenges around sustainability, productivity, around safer food chains, technology becomes the most important element. And in the technology, I think since we are talking about agrochemicals, we are talking about crop protection technologies. As you all of you know, India alone loses something like 2 lakh crores worth of crops every year on farm. That means the pests cause a loss of something like 2 lakh crores, and the numbers may vary. Many people would like to put it at a much higher level, but I just want to be more conservative on this number. This is a huge loss, right? So how do we help farmers grow better? So in the area here, clearly are an ask from the industry. And the ask from the industry and the farmers clearly is, how do we grow agriculture in a way that we grow more and more from less and less, because the resources are shrinking, and we grow them in a manner which is environmentally responsible and also responsible from a global responsibility point of view in terms of respecting innovations, respecting IPRs and all that stuff. Now, interestingly today, there are lots of disruptions also happening around the same area. The disruptions are being caused by the digitalization-led, the data-led technologies like precision agriculture, which are looking at how do we minimize the whole thing. The entire campaign around natural organic farming. There are large opportunities and threats coming by way of geopolitical implications which are happening, whether they be in terms of the war in Ukraine, which is creating significant havoc for the food chains and the pricing, food pricing globally, and also from a point of view as the latest US-China standoff, which is now making enough and more opportunities for India as a country to ride on the larger de-risk initiatives which all the companies want to make sure that they are not very heavily leveraged at China. So every company, almost all the global players are looking at spreading the risk, and not only to India, but to more number of countries, right? So that is a challenge, and also it's an opportunity for all of us in India in terms of Make in India. But as we talk about it, there are challenges around input use efficiency. So how do we have newer molecules? How do we have newer delivery systems in terms of formulations and in terms of new delivery techniques, whether they be around drones or they be around any other precision method, which can restrict the non-targeted application, if I may call it, either in the environment or in the soil. Now with this, I think there are obviously biotech challenges also facing us. A lot of HT crops should be seeing us here in India. But amongst all of this, the happy news which the first panel talked about is that India is now the 4th largest agrochemical market globally. We are the 2nd largest exporter, $4.5 billion exports and growing. Indian local market growing at a high single-digit number. If we were to look at growing our productivity better, I think the market would grow at still higher number of something like a lower double-digit number. So that throws up a large number of opportunities for the industry. Now with this on the larger canvas, I think the stage is now set to look at how do we have these innovations coming to India, and how do we have these innovators also coming and investing in India, and how do we in turn then build up the larger Make in India story. So with this backdrop, let me just invite my first fellow speaker. I'll invite Anuja. Anuja, Corteva again is a company which is driven by innovation. So I would like to understand from you what kind of, in the larger ecosystem, what kind of IP ecosystem do you think would suit the larger global companies to come and invest in India and maybe grow the Indian market for India and for exports globally?
Thanks, Raju, and a very pertinent question. So before I delve into that, I'll take a step back and say that most of the MNCs are already extremely invested in India. The decoupling is already happening for the global supply chain. For Corteva itself, we work with more than 14 suppliers, and we utilize both Make in India as well as Make for the World or Made in India initiatives to export to over 20 countries. Now, to take it to the next level, what we really need to be clear about, and when I say we, it's the country, that do they want to continue to be a low-cost manufacturing base, or does India's ambition is to move towards a value-added destination? Because the IPR and the innovation ecosystem for both those cases is going to be very different. On one side, we are talking about an entrepreneurship ecosystem where India has, in the last couple of years, has really made some good ramp up. While for the innovation ecosystem, the requirements start changing. The change comes primarily from the risk capital. So for any kind of ecosystem, one of the primary constituent is the risk capital. For an innovation-based ecosystem or economy, that risk capital has to come in different phases, and the commercialization of the eventual technology or the product that is developed has to be much faster, and that requires a lot of trust. And when I say that, it doesn't mean that there should not be checks and balances, but we should not see capitalism or we should not see investments as something that is not sane or that is not in the benefit of the country or the economy overall. So there should be more collaboration at a PPP level. There should be more collaboration in terms of, for example, a couple of very good international examples of collaborations are catapult centers in UK A-star centers in Singapore, the triple helix model in Sweden as well as Cambridge. These are the areas where they identify that for the larger problems in the world or for a sector, multi-stakeholder approach is required. That means that a Corteva could be an anchor for one center, and then there are the SMEs and MSMEs and the academic institutions and the government departments all coming together and looking at the different parts of a problem statement, come out with a solution, and then this center takes it out and commercialize it quickly. The access of or the speed of commercialization will determine that what extent of risk capital comes to a country. So we have seen that examples in Israel. We see that extremely in couple of European countries. Singapore is another example around that. So how do we do that? Whenever we are moving to an innovation economy, the intellectual property becomes extremely, extremely important, and we have to safeguard that in entirety. And we also have to give the due credit to all the players in that. So the deep tech or the basic research that is probably happening in universities, that becomes very important. And then the SMEs who are working on the problem statements on not just know-hows, but the know-whys, that becomes very important because the how better a process is, a manufacturing process is, will also determine the impact on ecological balance. And in this entire discussion, where India needs to focus a lot is that burden of innovation doesn't shift from just one place to other, and it has to be looked in entirety. So if there is a product or a technology where the ecological imprint is considerably less, how do we provide better weightage to it in terms of a market authorization? How do we ensure that our scientists get the due acknowledgement for the data that they are generating, because that data is the founding stone for all the research that is happening. We have to start looking at it all in one together pieces. And unless we do that, it's not going to happen. Now, few more things, and it's a little unrelated, Raju.
No way.
But what we see is we focused a lot in made in India, made for the world. So while we continue to export the stuff or the products from India for the rest of the world, we also need to have an anchor why that investment is happening in India. And the size of our domestic market is extremely important. So are we looking at a country where I manufacture it and ship it to the rest of the world? Yes, that's already happening, but why not our own consumers get benefit of that latest technology? Why don't we build that trust that all the regulatory processes, etc., can be outsourced, can work with some amazing academic institutes and universities in the country, and we work with them together? Why are we not looking at a joint R&D system? Even right now, there is an inherent mistrust that it's not good to partner with MNCs. If at the end of the day, I am registered as a PTC in the MCA system, I am for all purposes an Indian company. Then why are we making those differentiations on the basis of foreign versus local controllership? At the end of the day, all of us are coming together to work for the betterment of Indian farmers, making it much more prosperous and ensuring that the decarbonization of the sector happens as well. Those were
No, thank you so much. I think very clearly a decision that the country needs to take is, do we want to be an innovation-led, high-value producer globally, or do we want to be a commodity producer? The question was faced by China. China initially chose to be commodity producer, but they realized soon enough that they are not only damaging their own country, but they're not realizing the value. So I think clearly the answer lies in respecting the ecosystem in terms of the intellectual property protection, whether they be innovated wherever, I mean, by India, by Indian company, by any multinational company that makes. The second, an important question is about regulatory efficiency. How do we create the technology reach the market faster? So I think on that point, I just want to shift to Dr. Brijesh, who represents the Central Insecticide Board in the registration committee today. There are, obviously, there has been a great amount of improvement that has happened over the last year, but people are suddenly realizing that, suddenly all the peak that had come is suddenly started tapering down. And that's kind of hampering the rate of introduction of innovative chemistries to the country. How do you look at that aspect, and what do you think CIB is doing to kind of, if I may call it, right track, not fast track, right track the timings so that the innovations are available to the farmers for enhancing productivity?
Thank you, Mr. Raju. And from this dais, I would first like to thank my secretary, Dr. Sanjay Arya, and PPA, Dr. JP Singh, and also to Mr. Praveen. I have got this opportunity to present the views of a regulator from this dais. And the question posed to me that how we are accommodating to the innovations, although we have done many things in past. Sir, let me assure you, the given regulatory framework of our country, the Insecticides Act and the rules, and under which this Secretariat of Central Insecticide Board and this registration committee is functioning. Sir, we have recently, that revamped the entire registration system, the old functioning. Now CIB&RC has become completely paperless. Just 1.5 years back, we have launched and revamped crop portal. So all these are right from the top. We are getting the directions, we are getting the support, and we are trying to innovate in our own way. As you all know, government system is very slow in moving, but in this present regime, we are seeing there is a very fast pace of movement, sir. Few examples I would quote. Morning session also, or some panelists mentioned, that would also I would like to clarify. But regarding innovation, sir, one glaring example is the adaptation of drone. We are the very few countries and we are the very few regulators who have given such at a faster pace the regulatory approval for the drones. Even some of the already registered pesticides, it's a huge in number, those have been considered by our ministry for ad hoc approval, so that our all leading MNCs, all Indian research-based industry can work upon, they can come up with new innovative solutions, they can come up with new formulations compatible with the drone technology. And apart from registering molecules, newer chemistry, they can also contribute through newer formulation door. So that has been one of the challenges we have faced, and we have tried to overcome that. And with the help of industry people, we are trying to overcoming that. Second thing, sir, recently, as in the morning it was also mentioned, that India has a very different kind of need from regulatory framework. We have an act, we have people to regulate, we have a dual system of regulation, you can say. Center, state, both are responsible. Center is trying to do its way in its own given ambit, partnering with the state governments for the stricter implementation of the things which have been done at the central level. See, alone we cannot do it, but together we can. That's what we are trying to achieve. Regarding the facts mentioned in the morning, sir, we have, on our website, we have recently also started Know Your Company. This is also I consider as an innovation. Why innovation? Innovation in a sense of government, in a sense of our as a regulator, because we were facing a lot of problems to identify and to just separate who are all the serious business doers, who are all the fly-by-night operators. So in the eyes of government, we have to follow a system. The system was prevailing. We have tried to plug the gaps. And as a concerted effort of our government team, our Secretariat of CIB&RC, under the able leadership of our senior officers, around 2,400 or roughly 2,500 people have only complied with the KYC requirement. So you can see the drastic number from 9,000, it has only restricted to 2,500. Now, government can more intensely, the regulators can more intensely focus upon those 2,500 odd. So that number is also huge. But since they have complied the initial regulatory requirements, so they are in. And rest all accounts are freezed. They cannot do any business. Even whatever certificates they have got, those all are freezed. So these are the ways we are trying to bring into our regulatory system, because always regulators are treated as that they are a bottleneck or they are a roadblockers for innovation, for new technologies. But let me assure you that nowadays the kind of expertise, the kind of people we are having there, we are trying to improve the things. Although we have, no doubt, there are some bottlenecks also. We do need some time-to-time capacity building kind of activities that is very much required, because once people enter into the government and regulation system, there are very few opportunities, at least kind of regulation we are dealing with, to get their capacity and to learn the new technologies and to get acquainted with the pace, the global innovation, global research is moving, sir. So all these are, I can say, we are trying to accommodate, we are doing our bit, and with help of all industry people, I think we'll be able to contribute more. And we are open to new, as you have, I think in your introductory remarks, you have hinted towards that herbicide tolerant crop. Recently, the registration committee has also granted approval to few of the companies to have some initial data generation on some of the herbicide tolerant crops. Let us see, this can be the small steps through which these Indian regulators can open up further. And the more newer technologies, newer formulation, newer things industry would be bringing, we'll be happy to learn and we'll be happy to accommodate within the existing regulatory framework, sir. So that's all, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. I think it's so important to know that the regulatory body understands that it has to kind of align itself with the larger objective of making India a Viksit Bharat, ensuring that, the technologies and the Viksit Bharat cannot happen without agriculture, obviously. And agriculture needs technology, hence the role of the regulatory bodies in facilitating introduction of technologies, while, of course, protecting the authenticity and the responsible outcomes of their decision is very crucial. Couple of things that you highlighted, I think that's very important to understand. One is the harmonization between the center and the state. I think that has been a regular pain, and I would actually go to an extent of saying, we should have something like a GST kind of a developmental model around growing agriculture, so that there are no conflicts between the center and the state. Unless that happens, these center-state conflicts are not going to let agriculture achieve its potential. The other part that you mentioned is that you are trying to weed out the weeds in the weedicide market. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. I think KYC has been one of those tools, but more tools would help address the challenges which Mr. R.G. Agrawal raised in the morning about so many weeds developed in our agrochemical industry. I think if this can help that will be great. And the larger idea of a regulator being a facilitator in the developmental process rather than being a bottleneck is well appreciated. Thank you so very much. I think one of the points that you addressed was about industry needs to grow newer formulations. So let me just, at this point, go back to Dr. Mohana Krishna Reddy. Dr. Reddy, IPFT is one of those bodies that have been created by the Government of India, and its larger focus is around building up innovations in the area of delivering better solutions at the grassroots level. So let me just come back to you and understand from you in a slightly shorter time, let's say not more than 5 minutes, as to where are you in this journey and how do you think, what would you need to kind of create that larger ecosystem of innovation in the agrochemical industry? So,
yeah, thank you, Raju. So the IPFT, because I am the newly born boy in agrochemical sector, just I joined 5 months in this sector. But my Institute of Pesticide Formulation Technology, it's not new to this industry. It was established in 1991 at Gurugram, Haryana, under the administrative control of Department of Chemicals and Petrochemicals, Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers. And this institute has always been stood like a rock in many times to the agrochemical industry to develop the formulations. Starting from even the WDG, in the morning, Honorable Chairman from SML and Honorable Chairman from AMCO, they have been told that they have took the technologies from the IPFT, the WDG formulations. So from there, many formulations has been developed, and so far, if you see the record of the IPFT has developed 80 formulations, different like EC, SC, WDG. Now the latest is ZW, ZC combination-based formulations and all. So they have been even transferred to the industry for the commercialization process. And even now, the focus is also been shifted towards the development of the biobotanical pesticides, in which now the IPFT has developed 8 formulations. 5 is neem-based one, and the 3 from the other extracts like sesame leaves and the kikar, and then even the BTA, Bacillus thuringiensis-based formulations. And now the things have been also focusing to make the synthetic pesticide, combination of synthetic pesticide with the plant-based extract. So that can give some synergistic effect and lessen the dose of the synthetic pesticide, which now turns to be toxic too many times, with a sense of protecting the environment and human health. So there have been many instances, and IPFT not also playing a role of developing the pesticide formulations, because it has been involved in the creation of the pesticide during the development and production process, in supporting the providing the analytical support, and application stage where we develop the formulations and then test them and do the bioefficacy phytotoxicity studies. We have a field of 9 acres of land to do the bioefficacy and phytotoxicity of different formulations, and also we monitor these pesticides where they have been going into the environment, like fate and occurrence and transport of this pesticide into the environment, with the project sponsored from ICAR. Dr. K.K. Sharma is there here. He was the initially project leader for that project. So after that, so we now has to build the new R&D component, that is mitigation strategies. Once we track, we use the pesticide, develop the pesticide, use it and track it where it is going, and then mitigate it. So that's where the IPFT, we want to have a comprehensive role, so that can create a support ecosystem to the industry also, and will not be have a havoc from the environmentalist or any other people. So that's the one. So during last 5 months after my joining in IPFT, so I took initiative to initiate the R&D component. So we would like to establish chemical ecology and advanced omics approaches to understand the resistance in the pest for the formulations. So even we do whatever the innovations with respect to the formulations, but when we develop the formulation, so after certain time of use, the pest may develop resistance to this formulation. So we put a lot of efforts, we put a lot of money in developing the formulation, but after some time we may have to throw it. So to avoid that, we have to understand the mechanistic aspects, how this resistance is inducing in the pest with this formulation. So which can able to help us to minimize the, putting expenditure on the innovation. Instead of that, maybe in a slight modifications in the formulation which can drive that. So which are going to build it. So we are already submitted the application to 3 universities, and already in principle they agreed to 2 central universities and 1 ACSR system to initiate the PhD program. And this pesticide formulation is our one unique area, and in India only IPFT is the only institute what I have seen since last 5 months. And we want to initiate the MSc program to provide the skilled manpower to the industry, because now we are going to become a global hub of manufacturing in agrochemicals very soon. So for which we need to have a skilled manpower which can able to work from the day one when they enter into the industry. So which we want to build it through the starting of MSc, but we have limited resources to initiate the MSc program, for which I took the approval already from the governing body to build the hostels and amenities required for the student community. So we want to build a multidisciplinary pesticide formulation course in masters, and we are now going to initiate the PhD program, so which can help to the many industries to take from us. So, and we have multidisciplinary team of scientists who can able to make these scholars who can work in the industry. And IPFT is already enable accredited, so we have a testing facility of more than 278 pesticides in food commodities, and we can test 145 pesticides in different formulations. formulations. And also GLP certified facility for the agrochemical with respect to physicochemical analysis, including 5-batch and residue studies. And we have initiated already to establish the Center of Excellence for the ecotoxicology studies for the at least with 4 organisms which already been in the process. We got the approval from ministry and got the funding also to build it. Maybe from next financial year we will open that ecotox facility for the agrochemical industry. And also we are building a center of excellence in reference material production for the pesticide, because when we think of the spurious pesticides and adulteration or impurity profiling of these agrochemicals, which needs this reference materials for during the testing, which is not been presently available in India. So we have been building upon it. Probably in the next year we may initiate the center of excellence for reference material. So with this now we want to create a support ecosystem to industry with collaboration from industry to address their needs. The PhD program also we want to build it only industry driven research, not like doing a basic research and publishing it. So we can do the PhD research in the industry driven, there the student can publish it, also that publication or what you are developed during the process we can use for the industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saab. I think what is coming out very clearly is that there is a crying need for having, for improving the use efficiency of existing products, and that's where IPFT will play a major role, will continue to. What was more heartening for me was basically a research aimed at resistance management. This is becoming one of the major crises for us. For example, right now, if you look at the wheat farmers, the kind of resistance that Fertilizers has developed against the existing mode of action. So I think a role clearly comes from IPFT and also from regulators, that they need to possibly dig out which are the new mode of actions and get them on board very quickly, rather than saying, okay, you come and stand in the queue. I think the national priority has to be that we bring out newer modes of actions to manage resistance on that. And the other one, which was very encouraging for me, was also around developing the scientific bandwidth, the capacity in the country by having more students joining in MScs and PhDs in these areas. Because I think one of the challenge that we have is if we need to grow, we need to have the human capital growing in the industry, and the quality of the human capital is very crucial. So that's where I think we would look for a lot of support coming from you. And your last point about you being the partner for the industry, I think that's what needs to possibly now take off. And the industry also needs to possibly lap up the facilitation, the infrastructure being created here. So thanks a lot for that, sir. Do you want to make a point?
One
Sure.
point. One point I just want to request the agrochemical industry. If you want to build up this PhD program to provide fellowships to the students, we can initiate the PFT in collaboration with the industry. So which will also help to grow the number of PhD students working in this area.
Thank you so much. I think many of the industry, I mean, I know for sure my company FMC for sure is sponsoring a lot of students in PhD and MSc level, including I think Corteva also. Many of the companies are already doing it, but happy to have more, because we are acutely short of PhDs and MScs who could drive the next level innovation, R&D in India. So thank you so very much, sir. So let's stay at the same subject of innovating further. So let me just invite here CSIR-IICT. As you know, IICT is the premier institution in synthetic chemistry. Very happy to have Dr. Rajesh here. So let me just bring you in, Rajesh Chandraji, as a principal scientist from there, as to how are you gearing up to kind of fuel this takeoff that Indian industry wants to have, and building up larger Make in India story, which is not purely dependent on global players, but also from India. Also maybe how IICT is gearing itself to partner the larger global corporations who are increasingly looking to India for newer innovations. So.
Thank you, Kapurji. Before I start, at the outset, I have to thank Praveen Prashantji, and also my director who has deputed me to represent CSIR-IICT. So before I get into your question, I'll talk a little bit about CSIR and IICT and what we are doing to the agrochemical industry in specific. We are helping several industries, and since it is agrochemical forum, so how we have been helping, we have helped Indian agrochemical industry, and that I would like to elaborate a little bit. So today morning, Agarwal ji was mentioning about chlorpyrifos, and Dow had a technology. This I'm talking about 80s or 90s. Then IICT came out with a newer, better technology, which was supplied to, I think, I don't know even the numbers, more than 20 Indian industries. And today Agarwal ji was mentioning that. But times have changed. Now, we cannot just focus on the generics. Of course, it will be a part of the research. We are still doing, actually, one of the first things our DG, after assuming office, Madam Kaleshilvi ji, what she did was, she's initiated a mission in agrochemicals. So, actually, we are doing an agrochemical mission where we have two components. One is to improve the processes of the existing agrochemicals. And another component is coming up with new molecules with novel mode of action you are referring to. So that program was started 6 months back, and it is running right now. So when you talk about innovations, our Prime Minister, Narendra Modi ji, has insisted, if we want to become a global player, a global leader, a major part should be from the research. Research only will give you the leadership. We cannot be a Me Too player. That time has gone. Now we have to innovate. We have to come up with new products. And here, our knowledge and science should be the differentiator. Not at all. See, not at all the process chemistry or something. It is, again, I am insisting, I want to again and again tell, process chemistry, neural process are very, very important. At the same time, now time is ripe. We have to put a little bit of our efforts to come up with new molecules. And here, we are talking about all the numbers, how China and Western countries are doing. What India have over these countries is the human capital, the trained human capital. Since I worked in US close to 10 years, and after that I joined IICT, I can clearly tell the Indian manpower, the Indian students are on par with US students. If you give the same kind of facilities, they are on par. Their skill is very high. Probably Raju ji and Anuja ji can fill me on this, because they know. In multinationals also, if you look at the research, mostly it is South Asians. Almost all researchers, especially related to chemistry, it is South Asians, and a major chunk are Indians. So the Indian human capital is still untapped. So how we can tap it? We can do innovations in better chemistry. You come up with better molecules. So I have written down a couple of points. Can I elaborate? So say for example, if you look at pharma. Now pharma, people usually compare pharma with agro, or agro with pharma. But it is totally different. Agro is much, much more difficult. Because whenever we make a new molecule, we have to take care of soil, water, air, and human health. All these things. Pharma doesn't have to do that. I'm talking about just the product. Now, if you come to the manufacturing process, there also a lot of restrictions are there. So, being an agrochemical player is much more difficult than a pharma player. That's my opinion. If I'm wrong, please correct me. So how we can compete, or how we can take a leaf out of pharma? So for example, pharma, now they started with Protax. Most of you might have known about whoever is following pharma industry. there's a new new research area. That's a PROTAC. It's completely different from whatever we have seen as far as the pharma molecules are concerned. And when is our or Agro's pharma moment, or sorry, Agro's PROTAC moment going to come? Another one is we can do is the fragment-based drug design they are doing. Now, I don't know whether some of the innovative companies, whether they are doing fragment-based design for agrochemicals, I have no idea. But that is something we can always start. But as a research institute, supported by taxpayers' money, we cannot start, and from end to end we cannot do. We have certain restrictions. We can come up with research ideas. We can take it up to a certain level. That is the easier part, actually. So the more difficult part has to be played by the agrochemical or industries. So they have to, whatever our limitations are, but they are strong in that. So there, I can see there's a synergy. So for this to work, Anuja ji already mentioned, we have to build trust. Why we are working in silos? So we have to break the barriers. As an academician, I have to come to the industry. Whenever industry has a problem, industry has to come to me. So that kind of trust should be there. Most of you know IICT has always worked with industries, agrochemical industries. The Veg is there. All these people are there. They know. But still, we have to build on that. We have to build, and we have to come up with new molecules. We have to come up with new molecules with novel mode of action. Again, I'm talking about resistance and all these things already people have talked about. Now, one way of overcoming resistance is making a complex molecule, or most of you know chiral molecules. So many chiral agrochemicals are there, but they are marketed as racemates. But if you do a pure enantiomer, the development of resistance may be less, or it takes more time. You have to look at newer chemical spaces. So in any agrochemical, mostly it is carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, sulfur, and maybe phosphorus, fluorine, chlorine. But we have to elaborate our chemical space. So with this combination, we have only scratched the surface of the number of structures we can make. So with your help, industry's help, and with government help, I'm sure that we can do that. It may not be tomorrow, but soon enough, because government is always willing to listen to the industry. That's how we were approved this agro mission. I'm pretty sure our government and CSIR, they will be ready to take it up further. Hope I have answered your questions.
Not only answered, you have inspired many of us. I think it's great to know that the premier scientific body in the area of chemical synthesis is now, I mean, it was always open, but now it's now looking forward to partner and create a kind of a mission agrochemicals, which is absolutely fantastic. I think a couple of things that you mentioned, again, if I'm not repeating, is clearly talking about the importance of new modes of actions, and also how do you protect the existing mode of actions, because I can tell you in the global innovation pipeline, the number of new mode of actions are increasingly going down because the discovery is becoming more and more expensive and the environment is becoming more and more challenging. I mean, whether it be through the Green Deal or through other deals where people are looking, should I really be investing so much? Because it's something like $300 million to bring one molecule to the market. So, yeah, so great. The other part which I really liked, I mean, it's my favorite line again, let knowledge and science be the differentiator. I think once we are able to deliver that, and we have done that. I mean, we have made we have landed on the Mars. I mean, what all we have not done? We have done everything. I think the only part which you also highlighted, which I think Anuja also pointed out, how do you build trust and how do you respect IPs? And then come out as a larger research collaborating partner rather than being a government of India body trying to innovate by way of bypassing the IPs of many global players or Indian players. So I think once that understanding is clear, most of us in the global business arena would be very happy to work with IICT in ensuring that we are able to innovate faster, better, and cheaper. Thank you so very much. Let's stay on the tune of innovation and go to our friend Dr. Rupak Paul, who comes from Rallis. Rallis, again, as you know, devotes a lot of time on R&D. So let's get you on board, Rupak, and understand how are you viewing this larger innovation space, and what do you think happening, and how do you want to address it?
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon, sir. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak before you. Actually, you know, Rallis is a very old company, 170 years old company, started with the Greek brothers trading commodities from India. But recently we have celebrated the 75th years of incorporation, 1948. The company has been incorporated and we have just celebrated the 75th years. And Rallis was a very, prestigious company, and it was the first R&D driven company in India. Of late, you know, several things has happened, you know, I don't want to get into that, but the question posted to me, how the overall larger innovation looks like, as many of you have already deliberated that the new molecules coming up is a very, less number, because the cost and time and toxicology and everything is a factor. So the differentiated formulation is the key. Of course, the generics as well as the newer generation molecule of different mode of action. So I like to vouch for the new generation formulation, what we are doing or everybody is doing, trying to do to differentiate from the WP and EC or the solvent based, which are very toxic, and sometimes the rectangle which is mentioned and the signage is mentioned are very not very friendly. So coming to one example, how it can be a leapfrogging like oil dispersion formulation for an example. So it's a vegetable oil based. The medium is replaced from the solvent to an oil, and it has remarkably improved the efficacy. So we have observed about 13 to 23% increase in the efficacy due to this. Only the factor is oil as a medium. It had a number of reasons to prove that, because oil easily penetrates the cuticle of the plant, as well as it has got all the insects wherever. It has helped to associate the active ingredients more time so that it will not wash off, no runoff. It has also sticking property. Okay, so ultimately it helps to guiding the active ingredient to enter into the system where it can work. So it is an example. There are many such things which are coming up in agro space, like microemulsion. It is a well-researched molecule, but if you ask me how many microemulsion we are using these days, is very, very handful only, maybe one or two. Then next one is a dispersible concentrate or nano-dispersible concentrate. Is another very nicely, things are going on. So we have just now done the commercialization part of course it was a job work for other company, but what we understand is it's an easy kind of looking the solution. Once it is diluted in water, it produces a nano emulsion or nano dispersion, and that nanoparticles are stabilized in the water for a longer time, so that farmers gets the that nanoparticle enters the leaf or from the system of the plant very effectively and giving the right result. I want to urge one more thing. here because as the newer generation or newer formulation actually is we are developing, but it has to take the same route of the old formulation registration timeline and pathway. It won't give us a really excitement to our senior manager that, okay, you want to go for another registration of the same pain. Data generation and everything. So Brijesh is here. Can we fast track some of those new generation formulation? Of course, the AI is known. Both there are 2 AIs or 3 AIs. All are known. Only the formulation type is different. So giving us the better availability to the plant, thereby we can reduce the doses. We have seen there are considerably dose can be reduced actually. So this is the one aspect I like to highlight. Another thing is that because my prior experience in working in an adjuvant company, adjuvant can do wonders in agro space. And it is, so far it is little undermined what adjuvant can do. It starts from the atomization of the spray droplet. It has a role how to create the agriculturally required droplets. If it is too low, it will fly off. Actually, it won't actually reach to the target. If it is too large, large is we call 400 micron and above. It also won't go to the target. It may fall off, run off from the surfaces. So 100 to 400 is a zone. So that is the first part is the atomization. Second, when it reaches to the target, the deposition and the rebounding. That also we understood very completely with the help of different HLB and different property of adjuvant like kinematic viscosity comes to a role. And deep science of physical chemistry comes to a role when it comes to the depositing droplets on the surface. The next phenomenon is the spreading and the wetting and spreading behavior. Several surfactant and especially the organosilicons are the super spreader. And when we are talking about the drone technology where we are using 10x less water. So how this less dilution or concentrated form of the solution are to be spreaded over the surface and coverage on the surface. I think need of the hours is the focus on the adjuvant. And the fourth part is after this adjuvant adjuvant guides the active ingredient entered into the system and how it is translocated and followed by going to the right target area where it works. So these are very important and we are doing a lot of research on the drift and anti-drift for the drone. Only my request or my humble request from the regulatory body, look at those parameters and those need of the hours are in a separate lens so that the newer generation formulation can go faster track than the conventional or bulk formulation actually. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it again highlights the same thing, that we need to really improve the efficacy of the solution that we are providing, and there are no ends to that. It's a blue ocean where a lot of discovery is possible, is happening. What we need to do possibly is deliver it and create what we call as a regulatory bias towards innovation, in fast tracking innovations which are done whether in the case of newer molecules, newer formulations, or biologicals or whatever. The moment I talk biologicals, now let's come to how do we establish India as a responsible agrochemical industry, and that's where I think the role of IPM comes to, integrated pest management comes into picture. So let's have Kamlesh join us here and talk about how do you see the present status of IPM in the country. And there's a certain definition that the government, all IPMs are biologicals, yeah? That's the definition I understand from government. So how do you think we correct this bias towards accommodating more and innovative technologies, whether it be in the area of biologicals or in the name of managing agronomy or better good agricultural practices, etc., etc. So how do you see that growing, and where do you think industry can come in and help?
Thank you. I think it's important that we talk about the innovation here, we talk about the sustainability here, right? And therefore, the integrated pest management will play an extremely important role to take us forward. Now, why do we need this, right? Because now consumer is also demanding very sustainable products, right? For that, you need to go backward. This means you need a sustainable practices in agriculture, even going back to the even sustainable seeds, right? Now, how do we do the IPM? So IPM could be a real solution to get both sustainability, but we also require a economic viability. So it will be really fine balance between how do we use the sustainability and how also we give a economic viability to the farmer, right? So if I take the IPM requires some multiple interventions. I'm sure the agrochemicals will not go anywhere, so they will still play an important role, but how do we use them is extremely important. Then we also have a biologicals we talk about. There are different biological sections, right, which we'll talk about. And not only that, we also require good farmer practices. How a farmer uses the right fertilizer, the digital technologies we talked about, the drone technology we talk about the precision farming. These are all together will make a fantastic IPM, and we can still make a good sustainable agriculture and take India forward. Let me come to the agrochemical. Agrochemicals are not going anywhere. They are integral part of the IPM. But what do we need? We need 3 R's. First, reduce. What do we reduce? We don't need any residues, right? So new agrochemicals or the products what we are talking about, we need to really look at the residues what we generate. Secondly, reward, right? Farmer requires basically, reward. So he needs to get the higher yield. He needs to see the economic viability. Otherwise, this will never function, right? So he needs the reward. And third is respect. We have a soil. We can't afford to, this will remain for a longer period of time, and therefore we need the right products which will give a respect to the soil. It doesn't stop there. We have the pest, but don't forget we also have some of the insects which are beneficial to the crops. So our products has to ensure that they do not harm the beneficial insects, right? So this is the combination of all the three which will really take us forward. Not only that, once we have the right AI, as my colleagues talked about the formulation, to deliver the systems, to deliver all the agrochemicals to the right crop at the right time will play an extremely important role. Now, we have a fantastic AI, but if you don't manufacture it in the right way, it's another challenge, right? And therefore, the green chemistry, principles of sustainability, we definitely need to take this forward, backward, to ensure that we also make an AI, manufacture the AI in a more and more green fashion. Now let me come to the biologicals, which can also play an important role, right? In India, people have been using the neem for ages, right? Azadirachtin is known, very well known, and therefore the biological extracts are very well known, and farmers will continue to use that in the same fashion. Moving to the microbials and macrobials, right? So those are very important factors. We have seen the more increasing usage of making a fermented products, using the microbes, which are really helping the farmers for more a sustainable fashion. But there are also macrobials. We have seen some of the insects which acts as the predators for your pests. And that is the area also we really need to capture more and more, right? So that's also making an important. There are newer technologies which is coming about the RNA interface and those things which we are still yet to arrive in India, or even at a global level, we are still far away. There is another factor which is very important and which will play an important role going forward are semiochemicals, or we call it pheromones. Because these are not only for treating your pests, but you can get an earlier warning, right? Traps or lures, they can tell the farmer what's really going to come up. And therefore, they will form an integral part of the entire integrated pest management. So holistically, I don't think we can really say only agrochemicals or only biologicals will solve our problems. If we want to be sustainable, our products need to be really economically viable for a farmer to make money, right? But also it has to be sustainable. We have fantastic products in place to take us forward.
I think that's very interesting, very encouraging, and especially recognizing the importance of whether they be semiochemicals like pheromones that we talked about, biologicals. That's an area where I think a lot needs to happen at the regulatory front, because we need to possibly move, if not ahead of the curve, move along with the curve of innovation which is happening across the industry. Because it shouldn't happen that you have innovated and then you're waiting for 5 years for regulatory framework and regulatory approvals to come, because then the entire incentive to innovate is completely lost. Do you want to have a last word on it? Regulator always has the last word, right? So let's give him the last word.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Kapoor. I would just like to assure the industry from this dais that whatever Dr. Rupak Paul and other fellow members on the dais have just highlighted, we as a regulator, we are also contemplating, see the new molecule, how they should not fall into the normal queue. So there are discussions happened in past also, and recently also there is a policy under very active consideration, and sooner you'll, if the things fall, we get the approval. So we are planning to have a separate queue for this new molecule, for this newer innovation, newer chemistry. So it is already in the pipeline. So since it has not got the approval, so that's why I was not mentioning it, but I found that lot of thrust and lot of hammering, lot of question regarding the queue and that thing. So we have tried to bring down the pendency. All our old industry people, and they would be aware that what were the situation earlier and now what is the situation. Similarly, we are also trying to do something about some good innovative products which are other than main agricultural products. Something in sector of household, something in public health. So all this public health, household, and this newer molecule, these all three are in very active consideration, and soon we are going to have a open house also to invite certain more ideas which could be accommodated for considering this as on a faster level, on a different queue level. Thank you, sir.
Isn't that very encouraging? We need to have a big clap for here for the regulators. Thank you so much. I think this is like icing on the cake. So with this, I think largely we covered. Raj, you want to say something? You okay? You started, right? So okay. We started and ended up with the same company. Look at that circle. So with this, we can afford just 2 questions, right? One question. Dr. Saab, please. Can you have Mike reach out to him?
Thank you. I am K.K. Sharma. I superannuated from ICR after serving 36 years in the field of pesticide residue. My question is to Raju. As Mr. Kamlesh has pointed out, the issue of the residue. Since the new molecule which you have introduced is Russian ban on chili, of course, chili is a very important crop, and you have mentioned that 10,000 crores of the chili is exported from India. And since we are also monitoring the pesticide residue in the market sample and farm gate sample, and we have found not a single sample free from the pesticide in chili. So chili is very attacked by various insect and pest, and you have pointed out that number of spray are using by the farmers because farmers has to protect the crop. Now my question is that the new molecule regimen which you are talking about, whether its MRL has been fixed by the food safety, and if it is MRL is fixed, how much is its MRL, whether it is less than or more than the Codex MRL, or is there any European Union or other country or US MRL is same or less. That is because, you know, MRL is sometimes mostly is a trade barrier, which that consignment, whatever you can grow, if you are violating the MRL of the importing country, that whole consignment can be rejected. So all activity, whether you are GAP or IPM or new variety, everything, it is all going to be as no meaning. So would you please tell me?
Doctor, I think I can assure you that we have gone through all the tests in terms of MRL, residues, everything. I can give you the specific data. Fortunately, my regulatory person is also there with me. We can catch up over lunch and I can give all the details to you.
Yeah, thank you.
But I can assure you that we have the best of the test conducted and assurance to the farmers and growers.
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
the point-
Sir, if it is a company or a product-specific question, may I request you to connect directly with the
We'll be happy to
concerned
answer
party,
that.
because then the larger audience is.
Thank you. Thank you.
But highly appreciate.
Thank
You have been instrumental in taking this industry to where it has reached.
Thank you.
So
So
big
nice
kudos
of
to
you.
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So with this, let me just conclude with the last concluding about a minute or so. I think one thing is certain is that we as a country has decided to be a Viksit Bharat by 2047. And we also want to be Atmanirbhar Bharat. The road to this Vikasit Bharat has to compulsorily go through growth and progress in agriculture and for the farming community. The growth of these farming community and agriculture is basically the foundation foundation stone for that would essentially be the technology. And it's very, very crucial that we as a country work as a team. And that's where this panel is so interesting. This is an ecosystem panel, as you can see clearly. The entire ecosystem of the innovation and innovation delivery is right here on the panel. And so thank you so very much for setting this panel so interesting. So I think what I have clearly seen, three key messages if we can take from this panel clearly is that partnership is the need of the hour. We need to establish India as a place for responsible business, where there's a lot of respect given to innovation and to innovators, including protecting and encouraging the IPs. I think the Prime Minister is already driving that mission, and we are very proud that our patents being filed have been literally multiplying. I think we are almost going to be 60% higher than last year. So we're doing very well on that front, but we need to possibly be more responsible on that front. So we all acknowledged it here. I think there is a clear partnership opportunity available between the global ecosystem and the India ecosystem, whether that be in the area of private-private partnership or private-public partnership, or in the area of developing newer delivery systems, which some of the speakers here alluded to. What is very important is, and who's the driver on the seat is basically the regulatory system. So if we can have what we call as responsive, it is already responsible, we know for sure, responsive and enabling regulatory framework that can help drive. So that is like a rail on which the train has to move. So if the rail tracks can be very smooth, the trains, we will have the Gati Shakti running on those trails for sure. I know for sure, yeah. There's a lot that we need to learn from global science development. But what is crucial is basically a need for developing a premium on innovation and, like I used the word, a regulatory bias for promoting innovation. So if there can be a bias in favor of, which Dr. Brijesh Tripathi already said they are already considering, which will go a long way. And this is something which is going to establish India as a place to grow and do responsible business for the global world. With this, let me just thank all my fellow panelists. We have had a very interesting session, and thank the organizers for putting up such a nice panel. And thanks for all of you. I think you've been very attentive. So a big clap for all of you.